Down to Coke. And I'm VZ Mark II.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it has actually. Lots been going on, both in the realm that we cover and outside of it. I mean, to be fair,
Sent
the
to
latter.
the shadow. Sent to the shadow realm,
No.
or
No.
to another dimension.
Don't remind me about that. That's those are painful memories, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Listen, we'll be getting there later.
Yeah. That's foreshadowing for the main topic. So how's everybody doing?
Okay.
Pretty good. It's been kind of rainy around here, unfortunately.
Me too.
Facts.
Yeah. It was doing so good the week before, and now it's like just rain.
There was like 4 days of just rain and flash flood warnings and shit where I'm at, and I was like, oh goody. Excellent. As if Memorial Day drivers and people out and about aren't already acting like idiots. So, let's get sort of the elephant out of the room here first. We have some rather unfortunate news, and sort of one of the bigger kind of, well, certainly in my circle, maybe not in some others, but one of the big manga artists.
It was everywhere. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
Kentaro Miura passed away. What's weird about that? I should say, most notably for Berserk, which had been working on since the late '80s, I believe.
Yeah, like '89.
Or so, yeah, exactly. So, unfortunately, that was a fear a lot of people had, that he would never get to finish it. And the thing was, he wasn't old either. He was only 54.
I'm nudging at you, Mamoru Nagano. On his 5-star stories.
Though, to be fair, what claimed his life was actually was a pretty rare event.
Yeah. Although
it's associated with high blood pressures and smoking.
Yeah. To be fair, like I don't know if it's, but maybe sitting down a lot too. If you're drawing.
I mean, I didn't know him personally enough to like his personal habits or anything.
Yeah.
So I mean, he might have been a smoker. I don't know, or had high blood pressure in general. But if I'm not mistaken, what was it? Acute aortic dissection or something like that?
Yeah. It's basically like a tear in the aorta. And they even said it was a rare thing that.
Yeah, I did read that. What happened is a super rare event. It's not common at all. But the weird thing, though, is that I didn't hear about his death until, like, over a week after he had already passed.
Really?
Yeah, like when was it? It was early May, and then I didn't hear about it till like the 17th or whatever.
I actually knew someone that died of something similar. It was like an aortic aneurysm or something. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, like a leak.
Yeah, like a tear, then just
sort of leaked out. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those things that you can't prepare for. It just happens.
No. I mean that's. I mean, as far as I know, they still don't really know what truly causes a brain aneurysm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have some ideas on it, but I don't think they fully know. Okay, here's a comment here. Apparently, they kept silent because they wanted his family to have privacy. Yeah, I kind of had that feeling, because that seems like something that would have became more common knowledge earlier, if otherwise.
Yeah, they tend to do that there, where it's like, let's sort out, let's have her, and then we'll.
I mean, the funeral probably had already even happened by the time they told people.
Yes.
That, quite frankly, I think that's the better way to do it.
Yeah.
And yes,
I mean, just to be honest,
people commented too, because
well, yeah. Right. It bums me out in the sense that now I can't make those jokes anymore. Really, because it's like, the reason there's delays is because he's playing Idolmaster or something like that.
Never got to play the new PS4 one.
Yeah. So it, like I said, it's very unfortunate.
Gotcha kills. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to make it light, obviously.
So there's that, and that's sort of weighing, kind of over, I think, anime.
I never
right
watched
now,
any of the Berserk anime or anything. I hear the
TV
90s one
series.
Yeah.
The TV series was worth watching. The other ones, not so much.
Yeah, no, I've seen what the other ones look like. No, but
the CG does not work in that kind of environment at all.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing
you can't put CG in sort of medieval-esque, fighting and stuff. It just looks wonky.
Right.
Yeah, the type of it's like because it's I know like how detailed this art. In order to do that,
sure.
It would have to be like high budget OVA level, the kind that they used to do. But
I
not
always
anymore.
thought that they could do something similar to like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, where they would just sort of over time do an OVA version of it, which followed the manga, and they would be able to actually make it look like that. And the thing is there's really no excuse for not doing that, because you're guaranteed people following it.
Yeah. If you think about it, you're guaranteed the sale because there's a large enough fan base.
Oh, big time! And the proof of the concept is that take something like Unicorn or Origin, which took a while to get out, but was these long hour plus long OVAs, but they were really high quality and it showed. And I think if you gave something like that treatment, people would not fall in line, but would be more than willing to kind of hop on board.
Right.
You would not be wasting an investment by doing it.
Exactly.
Not at all. That would be like saying, hey, do you think Sailor Moon makes any money?
But it'd be exactly what people want.
Yeah.
My assessment is is like what studio out there would have the sort of talent pool to do that, because they don't really do that type of that type of fantasy thing, and to have it look that good, who would be even to put it out there?
I
think you could contract either Madhouse or Production IG to do it.
Madhouse would be a good one. My first instinct
I think they would probably be my first. If I was pitching it, would be my first choice.
My immediate first instinct was Sunrise, but I think Madhouse would be a better call.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's more in line with what they do. I mean, let's be real. When we think of Sunrise, you think of sci-fi more.
Yeah, Mecha and so.
Yeah, or something like that. Whereas Madhouse, you think of stuff like Ninja Scroll,
Right.
Oh, JC Staff.
Nope. And I'm not the shipping on JC Staff guy, but
Well, no, the thing they couldn't do it because they'd have to put like a dozen shows completely on hold to do it.
Yeah, exactly. They wouldn't even
that's
be
another
able to
thing.
pull it off.
Not to sound like other people, I'm not parroting them, but the sort of the thing about quantity over quality, where a lot of studios want to make.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, I could see like either some sort of passion project or anything like that, kind of doing it, but we'll see. Now, as for the fate of Berserk, I don't know. I know he had a few understudies and stuff, and people that worked with him, and I'm not sure if he left them detailed notes.
I know that some of his assistants have said some things, but I didn't watch those YouTube videos that went over what his assistants said.
I mean, there's a part of me that hopes they do.
Just because I got a similar comparison. So I told you that they're coming out with a new Getter Robo anime, and it's written as Arc, but it's pronounced Ah. So Getter Robo Ah. It's some sort of Sanskrit thing. But anyway, that was Ken Ishikawa, which was the sort of the guy next to Go Nagai.
Mm-hmm.
He's really the original creator of Getter Robo. Was
Mhm.
Kenny Shikawa, and he died in like 2007 or something.
Mhm.
And so Getter Robo was his last manga, and it wasn't finished. So, but I'm just saying, like the sort of you can have things made posthumously.
Posthumously.
Posthumously. Yeah, I was just thinking, what is he trying to say?
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's after the laugh.
Yeah, it's certainly possible.
I really only think it's worth doing if he left detailed notes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
If they didn't, I don't think they should do it.
Yeah.
Because like I think people would be better off just having like some sort of like headcanon ending than a bunch of people just trying to come up with something and they don't really know where he was taking it.
Exactly.
I think people would prefer it just being open than that.
Like if Miura didn't know how he was gonna end it, then maybe it should.
According to
it should be
interviews
left
I've
open.
read with him, he already had that all worked out in his head.
Okay.
Guts turns to the viewer, to the reader, and says, "I have to go now. My planet needs me."
Oh,
Pieces
jeez.
out. Flies off the page.
Wow.
No.
Planet?
He looks straight at the the reader and says, "Good idea, bad idea." and then you see like Yakko, Wacko, and Dot in the background. No. So anyway, there's that and other things that were going on. Speaking of Sunrise, since they were mentioned earlier, they kind of did something interesting here lately. First off, those of you who got the Seed box set or deluxe thing or whatever, like I did, and it was they had to correct it. I got an email just the other day that basically said that the corrections are on their way, pretty much. So those will be coming in. But what's interesting is, and I have to believe that maybe this was all in tandem and they knew something that other people didn't, possibly, because they actually announced a big thing about that. Seed has announced 3 new things related to it. I think it's a mobile game.
Yeah, they're announcing a mobile game, a new manga, and a
new
film
movie.
sequel. Yep.
And a film. Just so the people out there who aren't really familiar with this, I don't honestly know much about the game. I'll just say that, but I do know about the other 2.
And a new master grade to go with.
Yes.
Yeah, I said a new master grade of the new mobile suit from that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. The manga takes place between the original and Destiny. It's supposed to be sort of a bridge story in between the 2. I guess they're expanding the in-universe of it. That's pretty common.
Right.
And I mean, especially if you count like the things like the Astray series, which, by the way, if you're a fan of it, very cool.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway,
besides UC, Seed is really the kind of
one of the only ones that really tried to expand its own universe.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Wing did a little bit. If you count the manga and stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, go for it.
And the film is supposed to take place after Destiny, from what I understand.
Right.
I don't know I don't know if it's Fukuda or that whole team together or some other people. I don't know if any of that's been announced. I think they've just announced that one's coming, and yeah. So anyway, if nothing else, we know it'll look good because it's a movie. So we'll see. To be honest, I don't know a lot of people that are really still interested in Seed, other than people who already liked it. So
yeah, I never got into it, but I did like some of the design work. But that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was super popular in Japan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you had any subscriptions a new type or anything like that. Like those characters were all over the top parts of it for years.
Yeah, I never liked the character designs though. Sorry.
Yeah, they suffer from sameyism. I mean, like, and they're the same designer as Fafnir as well. If you ever saw that.
Yeah, Fafnir.
Was it
bunch...
Infinite Rivius, I think?
Yeah, and also Hero Gauge.
Now that's not to say that they're bad. It's just that it's kind of like Bible Black, where the designs are very samey.
Well, yeah, you can tell that the same character designer did all of these anime.
Yeah. Again, and the thing is though is I don't have a problem with a style, but there's a difference between style and being samey.
Right.
Right.
I mean, because like, for example, because like even Akira Toriyama, he has a style, but I don't necessarily think he's samey.
Nah, because all his all the characters yes, he has a style that's very distinctive. Like, you know what, but they all have different. He has a set like look for this type of character.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can tell he has archetypes.
Well,
like
I'm gonna get to that later.
Well, right, but I'm gonna say this now because it's on my mind.
Oh,
like,
no, that's fine.
Like for example, his sort of angry like demon kind of archetype, you know, for Piccolo.
Yeah.
Like he reuses that like in like some like Dragon Quest or in Chrono Trigger. Like, cause like Magus kind of has that same look, or some of the more nasty looking monsters and stuff have them, or women. He has like 3 or 4 main kind of types that he draws,
and also the friend of the main character that's also like supposed to be the one that you don't want to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, right. I'm just trying to point out that there is a difference between being samey versus just a stylistic consistency. Like a studio that is very samey is Poro.
Oh, right.
They do a lot of era anime, and it looks good and it's nice looking and everything, but it is samey. It really is. So it does sort of kill variety. Anyway, that's kind of all I was gonna say about that. I think that's really all anime related news outside of unless you kind of want to jump in with something that you have, Anubis, or if you're not waiting till the end of the show to do it.
Gentlemen, I hold in my hands the printed proof of Otaku Entrepreneur: How to Shape Subculture Through Business. So
I was hoping you were gonna say you had the pieces from the Shrine of the Silver Monkey.
Gentlemen, I hold in my hands a glowing piece of our radical rock, the Aggro Crag.
Seriously, how did that stump people? It was 3 pieces.
There's only one way to put it together.
There's 3 pieces, and there's only one way it actually works. Why did that throw so many people off? I've never understood that.
But yeah, so I got the printed proof from the printing company. So there are a couple little editorial things that I need to change and then send back to them in a PDF. But once that's all set, then they'll print up my order of books and send them to me, and I will be ready to start selling them on the 22nd of June, which is when the book comes out.
Oh, okay. Just as an update, I think the manga thing is actually called Eclipse. Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Eclipse, I believe. I think. Yeah. It says a comic series.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I guess it's not exactly they're not being very
There's not a whole lot of details on it.
No, not as much as I'd like, but well, whatever. It's all good. More will come out. Anyway, continue on. Yeah. So Anubis has a book.
Yes, indeed.
Buy his
It's
book.
interesting actually. I so I had to get in touch with one of these licensing companies to clear a screen grab I have in like the first chapter. And so they in turn got in touch with Gynax to see it was okay.
Oh, right.
And that was kind of a little back and forth exchange because the person at Gynax originally didn't want to clear it because he had a bad
Yeah. Oh,
impression
this
of
is great. Yeah.
he had a bad impression of English language books on anime and anime culture.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think he's wrong.
No, because until relatively recently, as in the last 5 to 10 years, most books about anime were really, really rough.
Yeah,
I mean, they were either super inaccurate or they were nothing but like almost blog level criticism.
yeah, shitting on the and basically exactly what how my contact
dude
at
said?
the what I don't know if that's what he said, but that's how my contact at the licensing company
But
interpreted it.
Anubis, think about this for a minute. By the transitive property, you're sanctioned by Gynax.
Hey, like he even gave me proper attribution details.
And people say algebra isn't useful.
So, that's the thing is I had to explain. Okay, this is the context that the screenshot. Yeah, well, yeah. This is the context that the screenshot happens in. This is what the book is generally about. I'm I'm not out here trying to shit on otaku. That's definitely not what I'm trying to do. In fact, the story behind Gynax and anime like Otaku no Video is kind of the inspiration that made me want to investigate all the stuff that ended up in this book and write the book in the first place.
That being said, why don't you go ahead and basically give them not a summary, but a sort of an idea of what you actually did with this book, so see if anybody wants, if it piques their interest here.
So Otaku Entrepreneur it's not a long book, but what I'm doing is I basically look and investigate the stories behind I'll be very specific, behind Crunchyroll, Faku, J-List, Culture Japan, and Right Stuff. And
yeah, so
talking about how those companies came to be, how they remain successful, and also then talking about the mindset and how otaku culture plays into why companies in otaku culture can be successful and what they need to do to maintain that success. And then I also at the very end I also like it's a little like how to start section. I go step by step in how to start selling anime figures.
Quite honestly, I maybe I should just actually look myself instead of ask this question, but I can't resist. Do you have an extensive a thanks list or something like that?
No, I don't have an extensive thanks list.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because like sometimes you'll see people with like these shout out lists in their book, or whatnot that are gratuitous to say the least.
Nah, not one thing I wanted to do is, and this is just generally, I don't want to write long books, like unless I'm writing a reference book, which this book already took long enough to write. Unless I'm doing something like that, I don't want to write long books. It feel at a certain point it feels kind of like
you're padding it out.
Yeah, like I'm writing a long book for the sake of writing a long book rather than so back when I was in college, I took an intro to business class,
Mm-hmm.
and the instructor assigned. So you know how usually if you get assigned a paper, write a 4-page
Mm-hmm.
paper on XYZ. My instructor assigned 1-page papers, and that enforced 1 page. If you go above 1 page, you better have a very good reason that it extends onto a second page. Because the whole
Right.
point is, if you really understand a concept, you're able to describe it in 1 page.
Right. Uh, the thing is I had an English professor who was kind of like that, who basically said that too many people will basically pad out things that don't actually say anything.
Yeah,
They're just wordy rambling.
yeah.
Uh,
At some point, at some point it feels like I'm trying to sound smart, and I'm really even even back when I did like she's lost control.net, like reviews on that website. If an article was 300 words, then the article was just 300 words. Like it's
right.
not it's not
Well, I
a
mean,
it's not a I'm not going for and that's my whole point, is that I don't want to have superfluous shit. There's obviously there's a certain length that I'm trying to at least get to, and 100 pages was that length that I was trying to get to.
as
But I
opposed to as opposed to having extraneous sort of like when people would do a homework assignment and they're trying to just pad word count
yeah
so they can meet a requirement of some kind for like a term paper or
Oh,
whatever.
I
yeah
remember that
exactly.
shit. Yeah,
I don't want to
like
do
yeah.
that. That feels
No,
self-aggrandizing.
not only that, but it's always obvious when somebody's
Brevity, what
doing
is
it.
it? Brevity is
Well, it's
the.
brevity is the soul of wit.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's what you were trying to say.
it's it's that whole thing of uh apologies for the long letter. I didn't have time to write a short one.
Yeah, as opposed to that fucked up George Carlin concept of a suicide note, where it said, "Hey guys, guess what? Uh,
But yeah,
sign the
I don't
this room."
I didn't want to put a whole bunch of extra shit that didn't need to be in there. It's very
No,
it's just straightforward. Okay, here's the concept behind
do the
this,
point.
and then I tell one of these stories that's kind of related to what was happening in the last chapter, and then the chapter after that is explaining a concept that takes off of what I explained in the previous chapter. So like the first story I go over is the story behind Crunchyroll. And
See, I
then
was wondering how you were going to approach this. Were you going to do it like chronologically, which in order of which ones actually formed?
I'm gonna be very honest with you. The order I did it in is the order I came up with how to with what to write about.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Because I was wondering if like you tried to make it in a progression sense, like oh this was first, so like chronologically speaking, this is where it went, or
no, it kind of went in the order of what can I do to connect these companies conceptually. So like
outside of anime, you mean?
sure, yes, exactly. So like first I explain what happened with Crunchyroll, then I go into like how sometimes you get a small kind of a small startup entity in otaku culture that's kind of skirting the legal lines. Like they're doing some legally gray stuff, and that extending to like people on Redbubble selling T-shirts and whatnot that are designed based on like T-shirts and anime.
Mm-hmm.
But then, what if that kind of thing gets too big? If that kind of skirting the legal lines thing gets too big,
The
you
hammer comes down.
you attract attention from
people you don't want to be giving you their attention.
exactly. But then sometimes that can open the door to the next chapter, and then in the I say chapter, that can open the door to the next business move, and then in the chapter after I explain that concept, I talk about Faku.
Yeah, I was gonna say that actually seems like it would dovetail pretty nicely.
Exactly.
Because if you know anything about the way that all went down, and how in the direction it ultimately went, that yeah, it's like almost like how it's like, hey, they noticed me. I got my foot in the door at that level. Granted, that could actually go either way in some cases.
Right. But the thing is, you take a chance, and
yeah,
it paid off
you
for
do.
them.
You know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You know,
Yeah.
they say that. Anyway, did we
Yeah.
actually say to go into the chat yet?
No, I have not. So here's what you do to get involved with the chat if you're listening live. You go to ntrradio.net, you click on the chat link, you give yourself a nickname and hit the button and join us in the IRC channel. Alternatively, you can take your favorite IRC client, point it at irc.ryzen.net, and join us in the # SLC media channel. In addition, you can get at us on Twitter at TAnubis, at VZMK2, at NTR_radio, and as always, the email address to get involved with the show is ntrradio@gmail.com. You can sign up for the mailing list and get like the prototype first chapter by going to otakuentrepreneur.com/book.
Let's tell them what they've won.
So, but yeah, so that's Otaku Entrepreneur. That's the concept of the book. I'm talking about how and why successful anime, like English speaking anime culture businesses happen.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just the biggest brands that are in the industry. That's not that
Mm-hmm.
It's to say nothing about the
ones that have come and gone.
The ones that have come and gone, as well as your people out here selling stuff in the dealer room and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But yeah. So if you want to learn how a telescope company helped Astro Boy finally come to American Home Video, Otaku Entrepreneur.
I was going to jokingly say next on TED Talks, but I
fucking be fucking careful, because the things I say as jokes constantly become true. Because I apparently have a mixtape out now called The First Paradigm.
Well, we got to be careful about you throwing parties for beating
beating
grade
8-year-olds at Virtual On.
Because that was a funny joke too. Because we were talking about how, like, if you had a bunch of money, you throw these extravagant parties just for pretty much
for no reason.
Putting down some like grade school kids on an online game or some shit. It's like how ridiculous that would be. It's like if you ever saw that movie, Billy Madison, where like every time he graduates a grade, he throws these like ridiculous parties. That's kind of what it reminded me of. In the meantime, we should point out that the history of hentai books seems to either be delayed or something's going on with it.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what's going on with that. It was supposed to come out in April.
Mm-hmm.
But it got delayed, and so I think I'm checking right now, but I think last time I checked Amazon it was saying August, but then Right Stuff is saying I think late June.
So it's one of those things where at this point I'm just going to assume it's like what the hell is that called? Ladies versus Butlers, and it'll get here when it gets here.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Amazon is saying August 31st, and again, I think Right Stuff is saying something like June 30th.
Oh, we'll just split the difference and say July.
Maybe. I don't know. I did go to Right Stuff and they're gonna email me once it's available.
Because I already pre-ordered it from Amazon. So, like I said, for me, it'll get here when it gets here. I've already paid for it. So,
So let's go to the main topic, I think.
okie doke. Unless you've
yeah.
got something you want to talk about in the meantime.
Yeah. Okay. Just in. Right Stuff is also saying August 30th.
Okay, so realistically, it got pushed back quite a bit.
Yeah. August 31st. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
So yeah, to
Wonder
cap
why.
that off, I ain't watched shit because I've been busy working on the book.
Yeah, well, I mean, other than the stuff this week, I was also rewatching Go Lion, Beast King Go Lion.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And I'll get to that when we talk about our main topic, because
yeah, me too.
A certain trip down memory lane for a
Yes, indeed. So, okay, here's basically, and I think this was BZ's idea for a topic.
Yes. So, you want to explain or you want me?
The world of anime before the internet.
Yes.
Now, this was obviously different in the U.S. versus Japan, clearly.
Because, yeah.
I mean, because, well, in Japan, yeah, it was still a little different, but it wasn't the same, because you could just go down to Akihabara or somewhere.
Yeah,
whereas
or
here,
just turn the TV on and,
late night or just on a special channel or satellite or
well,
whatever.
even regular TV. Regular TV
Right.
had,
But here,
the mercy of what was on TV.
Yeah, which was not only was it dubbed, it was often censored or changed in ways that made it nigh unrecognizable to its original form.
Yeah.
So okay, where to start with this?
I think that, sort of, because this is both going to be a history lesson, but also some of our own personal level of.
Anubis is probably thinking, by the time I was born, it was already past that.
Well, it's like it's gonna be me sitting here until like 1997.
Because okay, I think the earliest anime, without knowing that was anime, would have to be something that was a thing that I didn't find out what it actually was for many years later. It's a thing called Attack of the Super Monsters, which is, and what that was, well, in Japan it was called Eisenborg, which was a Super Raya production show. The studio that does Ultraman. It was half anime and half live action.
Mm-hmm.
But what this was they took several of the episodes and made that a movie, which was a very common practice in the early 80s, or in the 80s in general, when rental shops were popping up, and suddenly there was this we need content. We need stuff to put here. Japan has lots of cool shit, but they weren't going to put the whole thing. We're getting way ahead of ourselves, but like how Evangelion had the whole series on tape.
Well, not only that, I think the best way to look at this, realistically, is, I mean, there were some signs of, let's see how to word this, of it intruding into America in the 80s, in the sense that, through the sci-fi angle.
Oh yeah, that will definitely also because of the fandoms that.
There was some cross pollinization with just the sci-fi people.
Yeah, well, okay, even before my time, and I'm the oldest here, but even before my time, there was like um, Star Blazers
Right.
and Battle of the
Right.
Planets,
And yeah, exactly.
and then people finding out through conventions and such, like, oh, there's not only
there's
there's more in Japan that we haven't gotten.
Yeah, and the OVA boom was a pretty big impetus too, because it wasn't a long TV series. You usually got like either all of it or most of it
Well, that's
in
a bit later. That was the nine. That we're gonna get to that, but that was the '90s when the OVA boom came here.
Well, I'm talking about more along the realms of not officially, but through tape trading.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, because like you would have, because quite frankly, trying to tape trade like an entire TV series, especially back then when there's 50 or more episodes, that just wasn't going to happen.
So yeah, things like OVAs and movies
were mostly what came here, which makes sense because what would happen, from what I understand, is you'd have like pen pals and things like that, and you would have like somebody from here would tape something like, I don't know, Babylon 5 or some shit like that.
No, it's even like they were asking for like was it things like I Love Lucy or something? I forgot. No.
Hang on, man. You're interrupted, man.
Oh, all right.
I was pointing out the sci-fi people. They're
right. Yeah. I'm thinking of.
They would be. You're thinking a bit older than I'm actually talking about. Sending out like stuff that's on our regular TV channels.
Right. No.
You know that you know you wouldn't be able to get there unless you had like a satellite dish or something. Yeah. And what you would have is people sending like those kind of shows over there, and people over there would send stuff, various things, OVAs or movies or what have you, or just like stuff that's airing on like a block or whatever. It's like, oh, we'll just send them this, or again, it's interesting. It's very quaint sounding, I'm sure, to modern people. Like, what? Because like nowadays people would just like torrent some shit at each other. But you know, once upon a time, back before small cellular phones and things like that, this was sort of the way you had to deal with that because it didn't really have the mass marketing channel yet.
Yeah, I was definitely sort of at the very tail end of that tape buying, tape trading era. Not that I traded tapes, but that sort of that end of like buying tapes of of things that were recorded from Japanese TV.
Yeah, I mean, when I popped in was sort of when I popped in knowing what I was getting into, I guess. You know, after I'd kind of sort of it generated interest from me and I knew kind of what I was looking for and all that kind of stuff. Places like Century Media, I mean, not Century Media. I was thinking of, Central Park Media. Sorry, I was thinking of the label. Sorry, record label. My bad. Central Park Media, ADV was still pretty new. ADV Films. You had Manga Core.
Manga Entertainment, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You had all these sort of things that are all gone now, or have been
U.S. renditions.
Yeah, or even
Animego's still there.
yeah. Of all those old ones, they're still there.
Animego's still here. Right Stuff is still here. They were around back then.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting.
Well, the thing is realistically, back at this point, when it started to get over here with movies and OVAs and stuff, unless you had a specialty store or something, you had to order out of a catalog.
Yep.
And I know this because that's around when I got into it. And if you were up late and you were a kid, occasionally you would see even like infomercials for them. As crazy as that sounds now. you would actually have the like compilations that would have like all these movies and OVA, and they would try to market it as it was like some sort of new thing, or it was kind of weird. Not looking back now, I do understand that that's how some people got the wrong idea about anime, though.
Oh right, the ultra violent.
Well, yeah, like where they thought that this was the normal stuff and not just like compilations of specialty kind of material.
Well, yeah. Well, again, what the companies were bringing over was the hyper.
It wasn't well, that, and it wasn't fashionable to try to bring over like an entire series because those are long.
Yeah. Well, that was that was especially like
even back then that would be even more true when they had like more than like 26 episodes and things like that.
Yeah, no. I honestly believe Evangelion, unless you guys could point me elsewhere, maybe with the exception of like Robotech on tape and select episodes of Voltron, Evangelion might have been the first full TV anime, like the whole thing put on tape.
I don't know about that, but I do know it was one I remember seeing pretty early on. There was a lot of cross pollination with a lot of gaming magazines. I used to see images and stuff of it all the time.
I've seen like before that. I remember seeing Rama 1/2 tapes.
Yeah. Actually, I was about to say I think technically that was around first. I mean, in terms of because Viz put that out, and as far as I know, didn't they put it out in a wonky order or something?
Yeah, it was something like
there was broadcast. There was like broadcast order versus something else. I can't remember. Again, I didn't really watch it that way because there was too much of it, and it was a pain in the ass. So, but yeah. I mean, early on, before I even knew what it was, there was stuff like Voltron. My brother was watching that, and I sort of kind of would watch it as well.
Yeah, okay, so here's my thing with Voltron, and it goes the same for Robotech. I seen tiny bits of it in the actual decade of the 80s. Little bits of here, there, but not enough, it's just a hint of nostalgia, but not enough to nostalgia for those dubs. Which is why when I wanted to watch fully, I went straight for like Macross and Go Lion.
I mean, right. I actually do myself own Beast King Go Lion. I saw it when they brought it over in its original form. I was like, oh, I gotta have it.
What's funny about rewatching, so I was up to the episode, the one with the tree monsters.
Oh, geez.
And the thing is, that was the episode I specifically remember as a kid. And so I decided, okay, let me watch the Voltron version on YouTube. Just for lulz, because they have, oh god, I'm like, I can't watch more than one of, like, Voltron, the dub.
The thing is like I said, my brother watched it pretty religiously, and he sort of got me into it the same way, just because it's like, well, there wasn't much else on, so, and it's just sort of something like I love the fact that the guy's name was Lotor.
Oh yeah,
in the dub, the guy, his, the prince with the helmet.
Yeah, Syncline is his
Syncline. Yeah. Here's what they don't tell you in the dub is that he's born of a rape. They didn't tell you that, obviously. Or the genocide of an entire species and things like that.
Oh right, and also, what was it? World War III happens on Earth, and Earth is pretty much all destroyed.
Is completely fucked. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean that. What did they call it in the dub? Planet Eris.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Anyway, But at the same time, it did have distinctive features that you could kind of draw back to, like when things later came out, like Sailor Moon, what have you, in terms of stylistic animation choices and things like that. You can be like, oh, okay, I see where this all kind of fits in.
Yeah. What's funny is
it's easy to draw it back after you've already sort of you go back and go, oh yeah.
What's funny is the thing I specifically remember was the part when the maids were screaming, and I'm like,
oh
yeah. And here's the thing, I'm like, okay, that definitely tells me that I was destined to be an otaku. Like, it's like even then the seeds have been sown that was my destiny to be like, you know, noticing things like that. Like, you know,
right. Well, yeah. I mean, this is when it got. I mean, I used to see those infomercials in late night. They would be showing off like Akira and things like that.
Oh yeah, I showed you one of those where it's like,
yeah, and like there was even a toll-free number to call.
Call 111. Get the, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And but it's always funny. It's like the high-tech world of anime or something like that. The latest.
Yeah. No, they didn't call it that when they were first bringing it over. They either called it Japanese animation or Japanimation.
Japanimation. That's it.
That was the wincing kind of like. I'm glad they don't do
that
anymore.
I never called it during those days. I never called it Japanimation. I would just say Japanese animation before I said anime.
Yeah, just because it sounded like a stupid buzzword.
It so does. Yeah, that was CPM that invented that term, right? And I remember this one kid in junior high school that
right up there with imaginary ages for characters in their porn.
Oh right, they're the 19 and taking vocational again, in their sailor uniforms, right?
Right. That's pretty fun. Funny bit, but no, Central Park Media was one of the earlier ones, and the credit where credit is due. They did beat ADV to the punch, didn't they? I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah, that they were 1990, by the way.
Yeah. So I thought they did. Yeah, because didn't ADV technically pop out around 92 to 93?
Something like that. Yeah.
Because I know Devil Hunter Yoko was the first thing they really put out,
and the first thing from Central Park Media was Dominion Tank Police. Although technically they were going to release this ecchi anime called Mina Agichao that got so much hot water because it was like that they had to like do a retraction. They had to do what is it? Ishizoku reviewer on it.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like the history is cyclical. That these things are like, and I actually watched some of it, and again, it's like it's not a hentai. It's not like anything with actual sex. It's just like a strong ecchi OVA thing.
Yeah,
but they were gonna include like paper panties in it or something.
Speaking of that though, there was a really entertaining, for those of you who have the ADV version of the Devil Hunter Yoko DVDs, or the DVD collection or whatever, which it's interesting because they've got bonus features on there and they talk about it being the first thing they did.
Yeah,
and like and they talk about basically how it really was a passion project because they were basically watching the raw and like doing it line by line, like translating it, like it basically out of a closet.
So my introduction. I'm sorry.
In an area where they said that basically is now a gentleman's club.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And I was like, that's pretty entertaining. But it sort of points out that there were people that really did kind of have their heads in it, sort of like, okay, I'm a fan, I gotta try to get this stuff out there in a way that's more palatable to other fans, rather than just all this sketchy, like put money in an envelope and send it to Kyoto or wherever and hope you get stuff.
Right.
As I talked about, previously. A lot of my what I call my introduction to actual anime, which is something with the Japanese opening to it, was the Guyver OVAs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what an introduction! Like,
I mean,
it's like
yeah,
imagine watching that and you're 11.
Yeah, I mean another thing that was really early for me was Vampire Hunter D.
I saw that one early on because someone taped that for me, so I didn't have I didn't have cable then.
Believe it or not, I actually saw it on television, of all things, and it was unedited too. That's the crazy thing, and it wasn't like on HBO or something like that. You know, it wasn't even on like a cable channel. It was like just on really early in the morning. Maybe it was like public access kind of shit or something.
Yeah. All right. So
I don't know.
That's interesting. So I guess I'll talk about seeing anime on television, other stuff. So something later on I saw. This was in 1990, and I was alluding earlier. The anime for Dragon Quest, which they call Dragon Warrior.
Yeah, because for those who don't know, the reason for that was actually because of a game, like a board game, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, what's funny is
some kind of like D&D shit.
What's funny is I didn't even know that it was based on a video game at the time either. It was just.
But that's why they couldn't call the. But that's why they couldn't call the game Dragon Quest over here.
You're right. It's just seeing this fantasy cartoon that rewatching some of the episodes, it actually kind of holds up, even though I wouldn't watch it now if it was new. But it's definitely something I see the appeal of. Like I was able to see, I was able to see what I saw in it then. And it definitely has a lot of Akira Toriyama's traits. Like again,
yeah, I was gonna say. Speaking of Akira Toriyama, he is the character designer for that franchise.
Yeah, there's a. Oh, by the way, they only released 13 episodes because it was on Saturday morning. And I remember being disappointed that there wasn't any more. It's like, oh,
but it's not as disappointing as when Dragon Ball Z reverted back to the Raditz story.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was.
It was like, are you fucking yanking me?
Yeah.
No, like, okay, people don't. Early on, I was privy to DBZ relatively early on.
Me too. I saw it on like Sunday mornings.
Like the weekend mornings, like Saturday or Sunday mornings. I can't remember which. Probably Saturday would make more sense. And they used to play it, and I honestly didn't know it by name for a while. I just remember thinking, this is different. Like even when it was dubbed and edited and stuff, it was still different because it was continuing. It was a story that, like, much like a soap opera or something, you picked it back up like the next day and it continued on. It wasn't episodic in a way a lot of other shows are.
Yeah.
Like there was an actual arcing story that you follow. And
in the last episode,
that was different because, let's be real here, compare that to other shows you would have been on Saturday mornings at the time.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Yes, there was the lovely narrator who sounded like he should be doing pro wrestling.
Yeah, truth be told, this is gonna get me a lot of hate for. I like the music that they did for DBZ. I know it's so inappropriate and very like they added a lot of guitar and all that. I get it. It's not the tones because they tried to make it more extreme sounding. I get it, but this soft spot at me that just like.
In any case, though, that alone made it stand out.
Yeah.
And this was well before Toonami popped in. So I mean, I don't even remember what channel it was on. It was on like basic fucking cable or something, wasn't it?
No, it was regular. It was regular syndicated television.
Yeah. Okay. Was it like channel 2 or 4 or something like that? Maybe.
Well, where I was 11, so whatever became the WB.
Okay. Well, in any case, it was on, and And then you had like other things that would pop onto like Sailor Moon and things
Definitely.
like that.
Sailor Moon.
And then
A big one for me was Techno Man, which was Tech Man Blade. That was that was a cool one because it was like,
and then if you had like the Sci-Fi Channel, you would occasionally get something like Iria,
because I called it
or Armitage the Third.
Well, I just wanted to say because I always call Techman Blade my Robotech because I really like, again, even though but again I was just a bit too young to really see much of it, so I call that like my mecha space opera thing.
Before the internet, I think what most people did, as far as I know, it depended on your age. If you were older, you had more resources and things like that. But if you were like my age, you kind of just grabbed whatever you could.
Yeah, you grabbed whatever you could, and
whatever was available and was within your reach was what you watched.
Although weirdly, I didn't rent a lot of as much stuff as I should have. And I don't know if I was
came
embarrassed.
A little later.
I don't know if I was embarrassed or just didn't have the drive that I had later on. But I mean, I did see a bunch of stuff. And
well, when I'm talking about well before there was a special section at the places you rented it for too. Like it was usually over there by like all the documentaries and like the wrestling and all that kind of stuff.
They had they at Blockbuster they just had an animation section because
but they didn't put the anime in there at ours. They actually
the
animation was first. The animation was stuff like Rugrats and Doug and things like that.
No, they definitely put. I do remember something like animation, but not next to the kids stuff. They clearly sectioned it off, and even I remember when my mom rented the Guyver for me, they even told her, "Oh, this isn't a kids thing, so you should watch it before seeing," or something something akin to that. Man, those times.
Basically, like I said, before the internet and before there were even specialty sections for a lot of this stuff, it really was just sort of, if it was on, you watched it, and just sort of, even knowing it was on, it would be random. You'd be channel surfing
at one point, just for anything anime, this was the extreme early 90s, I was watching the fucking Little Prince. Because I was like, this looks kind of anime-ish.
The best way to describe being an anime fan before the internet or even before there was something like Toonami was just fragmented.
Oh, yes. Super fragmented. The idea that you would see an entire series unless it was indicated unless it was on.
No, that shit wasn't happening.
Yeah, you were like you accepted
you enjoyed it while you could.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the chance of it starting and finishing, not likely. The fact, like it even going to a season or syndication without being canceled, not likely.
Yeah, well, here's another weird phenomenon because of probably where I lived. And I remember I was in 6th grade. They would do Japanese programming on like it was like Channel 31 where I was, and one day a week they played now this was the early 90s. This was like 1993 or 94, but what I watched was the 80s version of Gegege no Kitaro, which, if you know about that franchise, it had multiple, like basically every decade has a new one of those.
Yeah.
But
okay, well, here we go. Yeah. I know where to take this.
Yeah.
Now, there did start to be some sort of cross-pollination with gaming magazines.
Yes.
So you started to see stuff pop up like in Game Informer or Game Pro or whatever you were looking at, because there's that connection between Japanese games, and then it's where most of your games were coming from. Anyway, so there was that, and one of the earlier examples of there being a distinct like anime thing was Animerica.
Okay. Well, I didn't pick Animerica until later on. Like That was more
Well,
of a 2000s thing for me.
I Well, my point was is it was there.
No, I believe you that it was there. I just didn't buy any until much later. Another bizarre like because you're gonna find a whole bunch of weird chance encounters with things for me, and another one was
Hang on, I wanted to
oh I'm sorry.
I wanted to sort of what do you call it? Not embellish, but elaborate on that.
Okay.
Yeah, An America started out in the early '90s, though.
Yeah.
Like
I remember.
and my interest, I don't remember how I encountered it. I ended up getting a subscription to it though. For a little while there. And as far as okay, it ran from November '92 to June 2005. Unsurprisingly, it was published by Viz, who we should point out, for all their negative press and whatnot, they were very instrumental in getting a lot of this going. Certainly on the manga section of it. And but they also published tapes and DVDs and all that. But anyway, this was their zine, I guess. And you could pick these up at places like Borders or Walden Books, things like that. I think that's where I got it, from like a Borders or something like that.
Okay.
Because realistically, I actually didn't live very close to a bookstore at this time at all. So even going to a bookstore was out of town. Anyway, what was interesting about this though is that it did have those catalogs you could get. And so you could order them straight out of it. So I know it sounds weird. It's like VHS, you know. and some people that are listening to this are just like, wow.
Remember when you had to rewind tapes?
Yeah, and that they actually sold fucking things that could do it for you, like the little things that if you didn't do it, they would have at the actual.
See, that back then that became my obsession to like. I must master this art style. I must learn to draw but the thing is, the material was so scarce, and like, how do you draw a thing? Well, okay, you gotta pause the screen and hope for the best. You know, me trying to draw Mizuki from Guyver. Okay, I'm not very good. Those eyes are very difficult to draw. Yeah.
Right, but yeah, I mean, before, I think that was one of the first organized examples of it really starting to make some inroads here.
Right.
Because like I said, it basically had catalogs in it where you could be like, oh, okay.
So I wanted to touch on another weird chance, like just totally like random thing discovery was flipping through, and again, because of where I live, there was a Korean channel. And flipping through that one day, I saw. Well, actually, they played a bunch of stuff, including the original Dragon Ball. But one of the things I saw was Motto King Grand Zord, which I've told you about. Yeah, and it was like it was like the second half of the series that I watched for like 2 weeks. And the thing was, I didn't know what it was. I wasn't even sure if it was Japanese because it was a Korean dub. But I was enthralled because it had like the checklist of transforming mecha, and the mecha are magic based because, you know, that was like my obsession was like Power Rangers and like magic robots. So another one of those, and kind of going from this place to this place. So it had that RPG level of like storytelling, and yeah, it took me a while, but eventually, and it's funny. It's like it's a little obscure, but it's not that. I mean, because it's Sunrise, it's Kunio Kawara, you know. Good Smile Company made a kit. Has a kit now with the robots now. So
yeah, around the time of not to make this into a complete uh, remember before this stuff was a lot more organized.
yeah.
um, somewhere around the mid '90s, like I said, there was a lot of sort of cross pollination going on between gaming magazines, this stuff, and also just other kind of counterculture stuff popping up. But once once ADV really got its foot in the door, you started and Evangelion got big. I think that was kind of one of the turning points because then you started to see the seeds of like things like Toonami popping up, where people were kind of because I still remember the Animerica that had Gundam Wing on the cover.
Mm.
It had I can remember it distinctly. It was Hero standing, you know, in like a suit, and he's in front of his Gundam there. I distinctly remember this, and I remember how they were talking about um, I just remember that, and I don't remember when that was announced that it was going to be on TV here, but I remember that was sort of a big deal.
Although I actually do remember before Gundam Wing, I remember seeing on radio TV them advertising 0083, like for tape.
Because it was an OVA. So
yeah, which I had learned later that before Wing, the trilogy, the original trilogy, and the OVAs were brought over.
Yeah, again because they were more self-contained and they just didn't have to worry about being able to promote an entire show like that.
Yeah, and because of Evangelion, I believe that was something that because Dan Cougar was on tape, and I actually bought some of those on like tape in the 2000s.
I think it showed proof of concept that people would hang in there long enough to get the whole thing.
Like bringing TV series anime, and
I hate to say proof of concept because it makes it sound like people here, but let's be real here though. People didn't buy television shows,
right?
In general, even our own television shows.
No.
I mean, that really didn't start until the DVD era where you could have a big, nice, easy set. I mean, for the most part, because other than that, you had what, Three Stooges collections on Time Life?
Yeah, or it's funny looking at old catalogs, various Looney Tunes episodes on tape.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you'd have collections of those. Yeah. But really, I mean, the concept of having home video distribution of syndicated television shows is relatively a newer thing.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious when you look at old shows when they bring them over here, because it's like they obviously had problems even doing that because of all the licensing rights with music and everything else.
Yeah, like you told me about the Wonder Years.
Oh, that was in limbo forever because of that.
Or the Adam West Batman was another one that took a long time.
Yeah, so I mean, when they came up with these things, they weren't thinking in terms of one day people are going to have these at home video, because that's just not how that was really done then.
Yeah. That's actually my theory as to why the look of anime suddenly got more detailed in the 80s was because of that home video. That home video.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Even in TV anime, like people recording.
I think you're probably right, because outside of film, there would be more.
The idea that you want to rewind and watch a particular thing, and now study it, which is funny because that's a thing in Otaku no Video.
Yeah.
That's the scene. He's sitting there. Oh, look how these transforming Valkyries, and it's like
he's going through and slow motioning the Tano Circus.
Yes.
Yeah, somebody's a Sakuga fan over here. Anyway, no, but in the early night, it was all very fragmented. I think until people really started being able to get this stuff easier, and not have to go through hoops to do it. Yeah, it was all pretty fragmented.
Yeah.
I think
Which
it
is
was really
why also
until two things: Pokemon and Toonami.
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
oh god,
yeah,
Pokemon really broke that barrier because, and it's funny, I remember
because not only is that a TV show, pretty long one too.
I remember in a magazine or something, maybe it was a newspaper, them just trying to explain what anime was. And again, this was just when the Pokemon thing got, and their example that they put in the magazine, bow. The hyper violent OVA from JoJo Bizarre Adventures mangaka Hiroyuki Araki. Yeah.
Nice.
it's like you go from Pokemon to that.
The best was hearing the old people whine about it promoting evolution.
Yeah. And it's funny, I remember the year before it came here when they were reporting on that thing with the Caesar.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Electric Soldier Porygon.
Yeah. So after that, the seeds of Toonami are planted. They realized that stuff like Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon and some of this other stuff really has an audience here, so they sort of collect the stuff that they have, and then they started kind of playing with the idea of having specific things that have never been shown here, and would be shown here for the first time in a legal sense and all this other kind of stuff.
And dedicated blocks also, like we talked about the Sci-Fi Channel.
Right.
Yeah, they did that too, and not to discredit them, but if you didn't have cable, you weren't getting that channel anyway. So
no, but I did see it in the late '90s, so I caught just the very tail end of that particular era, and I saw a lot of cool shit that stuff like the first Golf Force.
Thing is it's less that it's even less that it was organized so much as that there was a convergence of people figuring this stuff out.
The movie Rojin Z, which if you're like a teenager is like, it's a topic that's not very interesting to you, but the way that they present it makes it interesting, which is about what to do with old people after they're they can't do anything.
I'm trying very, very hard not to make a Soylent Green joke.
Yeah, it's kind of like a black comedy movie. It's actually, when you watch it, if you ever see it.
So we can either make a Soylent Green joke or a Logan's Run joke. Take your pick.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, in this, it's a robotic bed that takes care of the main elderly person.
So yeah,
and yeah,
but yeah. So like even before Toonami, there was like on Cartoon Network particularly, there were like little trickles of anime here and there. Because I remember before Toonami, watching Speed Racer, watching G-Force.
Yeah, the one that gets me and is like, oh, I just missed this because I must have gotten Satellite in like 97, 98. Must have been 98. So, just before that, no, 97. I remember now. Just before that, they played, and I told you about this, the dub of Tobakage Ninja Robots in like 95 on Cartoon Network, and that is like, which again, hilarious as that opening song is. If I saw that then, I would have loved it. Okay.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I think the breaking point for a lot of people was 98, because again, you had the big Pokemon boom starting to roll out.
Yeah, and simultaneously with Toonami really getting into the anime thing, because that was Robotech, That was Sailor
Beast
Moon.
Wars.
Yep.
Beast Wars. Yep.
DBZ.
Sailor Moon. DBZ. Because I remember distinctly people trying to get home out of school, like trying to fight with the bus.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. It's like getting
Eddie
home
is
in
there
time to
for
catch Zoids.
Giant Robot Week.
My buddy hung like a zombie. He was telling me that he's like, I'd be on the school bus like, fucking hurry up, I'm gonna miss whatever was they were trying to get, what Robotech, Beast Wars, or Sailor Moon,
Ronin Warriors.
But starting
VZ, you mentioned Giant Robot Week. I was there for Giant Robot Week.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That was my first time seeing Evangelion.
Same here.
It was like, okay, I have to see this thing that I read about in a magazine in 1996. Let me see this thing, and it was like the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, it was Ava, and then that's also where I was introduced to Nadesco.
Yeah, see, that Nadesco I didn't see, but I also saw the last 2 episodes of Robotech, which was the last 2 episodes of the Mosquito arc.
See, that's my thing is, I don't know if I just missed all of this, but I don't remember any of Robotech Southern Cross or any of Robotech Mosquito.
Oh, you know what? I know why. Because when I read, even though they showed those 2 Mosquito ones on Giant Robot Week, when they did Robotech on Toonami, they only showed the Macross part.
Oh, okay.
I read that. That's why. So you're actually not wrong.
Because I remember in like the mid 2000s or so, I'd see like Robotech video games, and it was like Robotech Invasion, but it was the Mosquito Robotech, and I'm looking at it like, I don't remember this at all. And maybe I'm just remembering Robotech wrong, but I don't remember dudes in powered armor. I remember people in F-14s that transform. So yeah, thanks for clearing that up for me, because I thought it was living in the Twilight Zone.
Before Toonami though, what would end up happening is you would sort of glom onto a company like, I don't know, ADV Films or Central Park Media or whatever, and just watch their trailers and stuff on your things, and then that would be sort of your impetus to check out other stuff, because they'd be like, because that's really all you could do. You couldn't just pop up, see or download a torrent or anything like that. You got what you got, pretty much.
I love the one. I still love the one that CPM did. The one that used the song from Genocyber.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that was great.
And again, it just set the tone of like what was expected of anime at that time. You know, it's like and I was like, just see robots and explosions, and it's like,
exactly. They picked a very they picked a good trailer piece of music there.
Yeah.
But ADV Films kind of had their version. They didn't really do that. They just had their own in-house music.
All right.
Do you remember
then they did.
Hang on. Do you remember the sort of do it now?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure I wasn't the only one who remembered those.
Yeah. And then I remember the anime is.
Don't remind me about that. That
was... Listen. What's more cringy, that one or the one I saw on the Encore Action Channel that said, like, because they showed anime too, and it was like, no dancing bunnies.
Yeah, that's pretty bad too.
It's like,
but yeah. Then Toonami basically, eventually in 2000, they started putting like Gundam Wing or Tenchi Muyo and even Blue Sub 6. If you remember any of that.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. I remember hating that one.
Yeah, well, fair enough, but that really did get the ball rolling, because then when 2001 rolled around, you had Outlaw Star, the Big O, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Motherfucking
it was funny.
Zoids.
That was the period where I was kind of losing interest, at least in modern anime. Weirdly enough, and the thing, yeah.
And by this point, I'd say the internet had started to kind of come into play more.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Which, again, I credit at the time the anime that got me into, well, not modern anymore because it's almost 20 years old, but modern as in something that's at the same time frame as it came out. And that was Azumanga Daioh.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, you had what's weird about some of this stuff. I'm trying to actually look up some dates here because if I don't, I'm going to be getting stuff wrong. It's been so long. I mean, I used to have a because once upon a time, Funimation really wasn't the big people on block. Not at all. I mean, you know, some of these other places were sort of leading the charge.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'd say that Funi really didn't pick up steam until they basically scored the coup by getting DBZ, and then you know, and the folding of some of these other places like Pioneer and
yeah, Funimation wasn't really the big outside of just having the DBZ license. Funimation wasn't really the real big company.
Oddly enough,
until
they were
I'd
sort
say
of the
late
license rescue depot.
Yeah, well, until like the late 2000s, after ADV and CPM went under. Like
the
I think
license
that's
rescue,
when,
and also a lot of like, because I think about like when they started doing like Negima and a lot of like and Love Hina, which I never saw Love Hina, but I know of. These sort of ecchi comedy things, which was also what
I will say before their because in the real early days of the internet, I'll date myself here, but I didn't really get a functioning internet until roughly the end of 1999, early 2000. Okay, before that, I largely was either using it at friend's house or at the library or something like that. It wasn't until around roughly that period that I actually had an internet connection at home. State of the art 56K dial up. No?
yeah, you got to hear the symphony whenever you connected to the internet.
Fucking get off the phone, Dad. No. But yeah, one of the things I remember early on was there was places like Anime Nation.
Oh yeah.
Which was one of the earlier places I remember that had a forum and a chat room.
Also answering questions.
Yeah, that too. But they were around early on. Now they don't really sell stuff, but they did at one point.
Oh, they were there. They were even a licensor at one point.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to have some fun, you can go to basically the archive or the Wayback Machine, and really see how a lot of the stuff really looked.
Yeah, some of those questions, man.
Well, not even that. Just some of the stuff anyway. Because the earlier examples of anime on the internet were web rings, usually based around a show, which would be like Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball, or something like that. And really bad Angel Fire and GeoCities pages.
Yep, I remember those.
Where the entirety of the page seemed to be people using like a powering up saying image in the background, with and it just loaded really slowly. It was really bad. And then if you were real lucky, you got to deal with Real Player to deal with video clips or QuickTime.
We don't talk about Real Player.
Where you would try to watch, where it would take you all day to download a full episode that was very poorly translated, and it was visually even worse.
My first Encode show, like as far as something watching an anime fully online, was one of the Japanese Transformers shows, Transformers Car Robots, which is funny because then it came over here the year later. But that was the first. That was the first, and it was raw. It wasn't subbed, but it was like the idea of getting anime through the internet.
I mean, because it was basically taking some of the ideas like the catalog and making it a little more. Because let's be real here, as soon as anime hit DVD, I think things really took off for the better.
Yeah.
Simply because not only could it hold more material, but also it made the dub versus sub battling and choices, not so much of a deal.
Yeah, definitely. And also the one thing I loved about that time frame, not needed anymore, but one thing was when they put like extras like the here's the line art for this show.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to there. One of the sites that was really great out there, and I was really bummed out when it went away, was the Anime on DVD site.
Oh yeah.
Basically a review site, and it was pretty much the holy grail because it focused on technical aspects of it. It basically gave you the rundown on everything. It's so much more useful than most of the other crap that was floating around. But that's really once it transitions from before the internet to the internet, though. So I mean, I don't know if you would actually even consider that to be part of that, because at that point it really did start to move toward the internet.
Right.
So, it was a different time for sure in many ways. Again, everything was very fragmented. So really did just come across as, well, you got what you got. You were happy to have it. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, you didn't have these like crazy flip outs about minor things like people do now. You were just happy to have anything.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like you were so grateful to get any snippet.
You getting the entirety of something was amazing. I mean, just based on the track record before, where wasn't so hot.
But I mean, I'm just this like weird, like people like complain about the content of the shows now, which they certainly were then too. There were reviews in magazines and things, but
the thing was, though, what's interesting is, like I said earlier, things stay the same, because back then it's the same dichotomy we had then that we do now, which is that the fans liked stuff, the artiste types were just bitching about other stuff.
Yeah, well, I had that thing that I'm so glad I fucking scanned that before Hurricane Sandy. I thank myself all the time that I scanned that thing from Flux magazine that had the reviews of
right.
I
remember that.
Yeah, not everything, but almost the entirety of what anime was available on tape. And just what they thought. Surprisingly, no MD guys there, but everything else, man. And it's just surprising what they thought. And it's interesting, like a lot of the same complaints that people would have now were kind of then too.
Like I said, it really depended upon the personality type.
Like, yeah, well, it was funny. They hated Fist and North Star. like oh it's so ugly and sappy, and it's like, but now it's like revered as this like nostalgic thing for the manime people.
Uh, um,
Mhm.
no, I mean there. I mean all of this is very nostalgic to me because it's just like, yeah, that was a different time to be sure.
Mhm.
I know some people what's the word I'm looking for? Romanticize it. I don't because it was annoying in many ways.
There are certain nostalgic aspects, sure, but
But I think that's with anything.
honestly, again, I love that the fact that you could just find out about nearly any show and watch it at some level, even if you're watching Raw. I mean,
I think what people really mean is that social media hadn't really kicked in yet, and so a bunch of idiots weren't involved any yet.
also, you felt very super special because only you knew about this. You and a few small contingent of people knew about this, this thing.
Yeah, which that's looking back at that's kind of funny to me because that just screams hipster.
Um, person trying to seem more special than they really were. Because
Uh,
we all read people saying like, oh, then it was like, but then anime became popular, and suddenly it wasn't as cool as when we've all read comments like that.
yeah, coming from Colony Drop.
Well, it's like the I don't know, and maybe this is just me, but I have always decoupled the problems surrounding anime culture over here with how popular anime is or isn't.
um, it really depends. I think some things actually became more of a problem when it did get more popular, simply from the fact that having to explain shit to dumb people. For example, like anytime there'd be something that would show up in the news, like, oh, there's this game or this thing that somebody got that they weren't supposed to have, and then it's like when the rape lay thing showed up.
Yeah.
It's just like, and then like was in discussions in places that otherwise there wouldn't have been.
That's my thing though, is I don't match that, like that's not a anime is popular now thing. That's just number one, people not really trying to investigate more into weird things they hear on the news, and number two, the news just straight up being directly incentivized to only report on things that are kind of wild and out there.
Right. And this wouldn't be the first time they've done that either. As far as anime is concerned. I mean, really. I mean, this is not that wasn't the first, nor do I doubt it will be the last.
Yeah, but it's like even on that subject, it's like I'm back then I wasn't really out there with the fact that Tenchi Muyo was my favorite thing on Toonami. Like even among people who also watched Toonami. But now, like I'm perfectly equipped and willing to either explain weird stuff going on in anime or tell people to fuck off if they're gonna have a problem with it. But back then it was
Yeah,
like, okay, eh, people are watching Toonami. That's awesome, cool in the gang. But I like the cute girls show, and I can't explain why. I don't understand why I like this, and I certainly can't fucking tell all the other people I know who are into Toonami. But it's funny though, because I remember a friend of mine who like was, and this is like 5th grade. I remember a friend of mine who was really in. He was the other guy who was really into anime. So like he had got me uh, a Death Scythe Hell model kit for my birthday. Which was
Right.
my first gunpla. I don't even know where he got it, but it's funny. He and I had linked up like years after, because he had moved away, and he came up to
Mm-hmm.
visit, and he and I linked up, and he was still into anime, and I had sort of known about this the the manga and the anime and whatnot, but he's the guy who kind of introduced me to Love Hina after that.
Mm. Right.
So it's like you thought our paths were divergent, but not really.
Mm.
But that's kind of my thing, is like, between then and now, as far as the reason I don't make a connection between anime is popular now, so now there are all these problems and we have to explain stuff to people who are uninitiated, is that now I'm equipped to do that.
Right, but I mean, a lot of people weren't when a lot of this stuff was flying around on the news, though. So they were sort of shitting their pants because it's like, oh no, now I have to explain to XYZ about it. I mean, now that's a ridiculous concept to me because it's like, well, why don't you just go fuck yourself?
Yeah, that's
Explaining,
all. That's my other thing, is like, oh, now I have to explain. No, you don't.
No, you don't. Fuck them. If they really want to know about that shit, let them.
If if they actually want an explanation, I'll give them
oh
give them an
no, men are
explanation.
watching Sailor Moon.
But if they want a quote unquote explanation, but they're really just looking to have their prejudices confirmed, they can go fuck themselves. I got anime to watch. I'm behind. My backlog is long. So I've been working on this fucking book.
Yeah, I mean, um, now I'm trying to remember exactly when that actually became a deal. Wasn't it around the late 2000s where they flipped out about that?
Are you talking specifically about the Rayplay thing?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was 2010, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah,
It's hard to it's hard to remember because it was quite a while ago now.
Yeah, that was 2010. I
Oh,
typed in Rayplay CNN, and that gave me exactly what I'm looking for. It was 2010.
yeah, I distinctly remember that they had a weird poll after that though. Like, Japan, should they be allowed to make these things anymore? And like it had a yes or no thing. I love the fact that they're asking Americans, should they be allowed to make something in their own country?
Yeah, yeah.
That's not here. Like they fucking like get to make
and is
that
a niche
decision for
within their
them.
own country.
Yeah, and they get to make that decision from over here. Like seriously? The only thing that ended up doing is Japanese people basically deciding that, oh, well, we got to be more careful about allowing our games to get outside of our borders. Then,
Yep.
fuck these idiots.
Yep. Illusion straight up. And I don't remember if this is directly because of Rayplay, or if Illusion always did this, but Illusion just straight up blocked United States IPs.
IPs, yeah.
Until
I
until they got together with Faku, which I also
oh yeah, I
explained in the
forgot
book.
about that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
yeah,
but
it
it's
was
interesting to look at all the it's interesting to look at all the hullabaloo that came after that. Where they just sort of I don't know. I mean, I honestly think more than anything else, they just had a slow news day and they wanted to get people like angry and holding up pitchforks and shit.
It always strikes me as, well, here's my thing about, and like CNN has done this multiple times, and it never really amounts to anything. Not that I
No,
observed. Like the rape play
no,
thing was big for
it's wow, this thing
maybe
exists, and it's like, well, now thanks to you, now more people know it exists.
yeah, and it was a big deal for maybe 3 to 6 months, maybe at the absolute most. Like the last time someone mentioned rape play was like 6 months after that story dropped. So it's like it's never the kind of thing that really has a lasting impact other than the kind of impact we let it have. And of course, like responses from Japanese companies that we can't control.
Unless you, of course, think that a poll on CNN is going to ultimately, yeah. I don't know. I've just it was that was a weird moment for me because it was like, oh goody, this is this is going to be something you're going to be harping on, and I fully expect, like, anytime I hear about some bizarro shit that comes out of there, I just know there's going to be some stupid some big hullabaloo about it, and it's just like you're just drawing more attention to something that otherwise people wouldn't have paid attention to.
Yeah. Well, it's like the thing about the birth rate, bringing up the thing about the birth rates, but it's like, okay, what are you gonna do about it? You got no solutions for it.
That's apples and oranges. That's about an actual social problem versus a piece of entertainment.
Well, then they would. Yeah, well, they would say, "Oh, because they're so obsessed with
Well, yeah,
anime."
it's always they're coming from the outside looking in, and B their solution is always like coming from their own perspective and not really. It's arguing in bad faith.
Sure it is.
To put a nutshell on it, they're always approaching this stuff in bad faith. Which is why it's like it only really has the cultural impact that we let it have.
Mm.
But yeah, as far as pre-internet anime goes, like I know I came right on the cusp of it. Like I and on some level, I was kind of late to the anime online thing as far in the first place, because I don't remember really watching anime online on to any extent other before MySpace was a big thing. But yeah, Toonami was the real big thing for me. Like that was what plunged me into all this, and that was Tenchi Muyo, that was Sailor Moon, that was Zoids.
For me, it was a little bit before that. It was discovering these companies that had their own sort of catalogs that you could order stuff from, and sort of like following a sports team or something. You know, it's like, if it's got this, if these guys are putting it out, it's at least going to be interesting, if nothing else. Of course, that was kind of not how any of that actually worked back then, but right. I didn't know any better. So, in any case, yeah, I mean, there's people that are even older than myself or VZ that were into it that probably had much harder of a time.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
like the legit tape traders.
Yeah, what was exactly that thing? The Cartoon Something Alliance.
That was the Cartoon Fantasy Alliance, I think it was.
Yes, that's it. Where once upon a time, both the anime and furry fandoms were cross-sectioned together.
Yeah, yeah. This is little known, like general fandom lore. The furry fandom grew out of the first real big anime club. So all this shit we see on Twitter.com about furries attacking weebs and slandering weebs all the time. Not that culture would not exist without the U.S. anime culture. But nobody knows that, so we're destined to do battle with people who would otherwise have been our brothers potentially, our wolf suit wearing brothers.
I've got some bad jokes about this that I'm going to refrain from now. Anyway, but yeah, sort of a stroll down memory lane.
Down memory lane. Like I for the first like 20 minutes of the main segment, I just didn't speak.
Yeah, I noticed. It's like Anubis is probably
Toonami gets mentioned. Hey, I get to talk now.
But Anubis, what's your opinion about like the way things were before your time? Like, does it like, oh, it's interesting that things had to get to that point.
My impression of it is that there are probably people who were around at that time who would have been anime people, but never got the opportunity. Because it seems to me, in my interpretation of it, it seems to me that getting into anime at that time was either you knew the right people or you were in the right place at the right time or watching the right channel at the right time.
Yeah,
or you were extremely curious and tried literally everything in the anything that was a cartoon
in my case it was that
store.
It was the inkling for the stuff already, plus happenstance.
I think that's why older fans have a little bit more of appreciation for it and think of it in less disposable terms, because to them they remember when you really didn't even have much of a choice. You just had to get whatever you got.
Right.
And thus you were just kind of happy to have whatever you could get a hold of. And so not to say that they're less picky, but I think they're less willing to go to great lengths to crap on stuff.
It's like on some level back then, anime was something that happened to you.
Yeah, I mean, not to make it sound like I don't know, being accosted at an ATM or something.
Yeah, it's like, make it sound like you catching a disease. But it's like anime was something that kind of came along at a certain point if you were lucky.
Yeah, I mean, and unless you really were interested in it, you were going to have a bitch of a time really lining a lot of that up.
And it's like once anime happens to you, it's like, then what do you do? Because like, okay, I have identified a specific category of media that I like. How the fuck do I find more of it?
Well, see, that's kind of what I mean by catalogs and whatnot. That was really your saving grace back then, because it was the only way to organize getting a lot of it. I mean, beyond that, I mean, pre-internet, okay, so it's not like you can just sort of walk into your like a J.C. Penney's and it's there.
Well, there was Sam Goody, which was how I saw it. I saw a lot of tapes in there.
Sam Goody was a video depot though.
Oh right. Oh no, yeah, definitely not in a JCPenney or catalog. No,
I was not being serious.
Well, I mean, it took fucking until only a couple years ago to get anime on the shelves of Walmart.
Mm.
But and it's like people in my generation, the Toonami generation, are kind of extremely lucky that not only was there a place that we could reliably see anime, or more so that once we encountered anime, there was a place we could go to reliably see it, rather than have an anime happen to you and then you have to go into a catalog or do this and that, or know some people who have tapes, or go to the video rental store and hope that the title you picked up was a good title.
Yeah.
Well, that's something we actually didn't really talk about, is the blind buy, which was
I used
a
to do that in the
concept.
2000s. Yeah.
Yes. Something just looked like it might be cool. You might take a chance, but the thing is, this is why rentals were helpful. That way you could, because it's not like you could just go stream something or download it or whatever. Like, you didn't have that. You really did have to sort of, if you were stingy with your money or whatever, you really wanted to save it for something, because it wasn't cheap. I mean, certainly not during the VHS days. In fact, you could argue it kind of got back to that in a way.
The Toonami people were lucky in that we had a curated block of programming. So like, if you're watching Toonami, you could be reasonably assured that there's gonna be some cross appeal between what you're liking. Like, if you like Gundam Wing, then you might also like something like Zoid. You might also like something like Outlaw Star. If you like Robotech, you might like Gundam Wing. You might like DBZ, Sailor Moon. Like, you can be reasonably assured that you might like something else on that block, and if you don't, there's probably something you do like coming after it. So it's not that far away. I think that's something that's kind of missing in like today's anime space, is that curation.
Well, yeah.
Because this is a problem I talked about.
I got one.
All right.
And if you like doo-doo, you might like Aiken.
Well, like, this is something I remember talking about when, or I think I mentioned this in an article in Otaku Entrepreneurs. Like, when you get into anime, like, so one of your friends puts you on to this Japanese animation stuff, and you watch whatever they recommend, and it's like, okay, cool. Where do I get more anime? Now the problem isn't where do I get more anime? Because you got options. You got Crunchyroll, you got Netflix, you got et cetera, et cetera. The issue is what to watch, and I don't think there's really any kind of large scale curation going on there. Because if you were to go to Crunchyroll and fucking, you just came off of watching, I don't know, you just came off of watching Cowboy Bebop because you got recommended that as your first anime, and you go there and you see something like you see Eromanga Sensei and shit. That might be some level of a culture shock, and I think that's kind of a thing that's missing.
Well, I think that model, that how, like, VZ and myself ended up doing, which is basically watching whatever and whenever, that doesn't work in the modern time. That only worked because it was by necessity.
Yes.
It doesn't work when you actually have freedom and choices like that.
Yeah. Well, you get paralyzed.
Right. There's too much, and unless you actually know what you're doing, it really is just kind of a free fall.
Yep.
I agree. I mean, I actually never thought about that. It's like, well, if you try to use the way I watched it, it's not going to work because that was a different circumstance.
Yeah, we weren't licensing basically every single show each season.
You were just happy to have whatever you could because, well, that was whatever you had. It was you really couldn't be picky. You really couldn't, because otherwise you weren't going to be watching anything.
Exactly.
Now you can, and obviously people that are certain people aren't going to like certain things. I mean, that was always true to an extent, but I mean, now that's even more so, because it's almost like how trying to cram all nerds into a social space.
Oh yeah, well that's an article on Ayashike. It's like, okay,
but like it's like that on a smaller
in a microcosm.
And yeah, exactly, a microcosm of that. It's like you're trying to shove all anime fans into the same sphere, and that's not going to work.
Exactly.
It's just not. I mean, that never was true. I mean, because like if you look back at all those old zines and things like that, you have like these sort of hoity-toity types that basically crapped on anything that wasn't Ghibli and things like that.
Right.
And those people were never going to get along with the high school DxD folks.
Yeah, exactly. And
that was never going to happen.
And they shouldn't be expected to.
No. I mean, here's the weird thing about that. Rather than just live and let live, it's basically this weird sort of on high call from academia that's like, well, the people who like that stuff just need to shut up and go away.
Yeah. It's different parts of a subculture that are mutually hostile for no reason.
And it's just like, wow. It's like, yeah, I mean, like I said, the kind of people who like to huff their own farts and chew on their own dingleberries. Wow. You know? And the thing is that has not changed.
No.
That is one that weird sort of dualism in the anime sphere has been there and has never went away. It's still there to this day.
It's shifted a bit with regards to what is acceptable or not.
Is there.
But there's definitely that mutual hostility still there, and it's between the same kind of two sides. It's just what is acceptable within one side or the other side has kind of shifted. It's like it used to be accepted. It used to, if you were in a position of influence inside the anime subculture, it used to be that you basically would never acknowledge sexual elements, ecchi and whatnot. But you're allowed to do that now if you're treating it like a meme. I've noticed that.
Or you could just, not be one of these pretentious assholes and just do whatever you want.
You also have the choice to do that, and that's the path we've chosen here at NTR Radio.
Yes.
That this is kind of, and we'll wrap on this. This is so. In the Genshiken official book, what they describe the Genshiken as is their purpose is to approach the media as consumers, as opposed to the way, like, in the Genshiken world, as opposed to the way that their school's anime club or their school's manga club approaches it. So rather than like on an analytical level, trying to break it down and whatnot, they approach things from an appeal level and from a consumer level. And I think that
consumerism's bad.
Well, yeah, I think that's where the real big disconnect tends to be.
You're just a consumer.
and
that
like
mean.
that, and so like to tie it back to the main topic, it's like, yeah, back when I was watching Toonami, if I didn't like something, I didn't watch it. But if I liked something, then like if I liked something, listen, I liked Zoids. I had the fucking models. I had that gun sniper. I had the cannon tortoise, fucking Berserk Fury, Dark Liger Zero and shit. Guaranteed that if there was any Tenchi Muyo merchandise that existed at that point, I would have gotten it. But like that's what I feel like the disconnect is. The way people who are like NTR radio people approach the media is from a consumer standpoint rather than from a more analytical standpoint. And I'd say analytical because I don't know what the word for it is, but it's basically that's where I think the split is. That's where I feel like the line is drawn. And I think it's always been that way.
I mean, I think it actually might even be simpler than that, and it's basically just a split between people who see it for what it is, entertainment, versus people who have been led to believe it's more than that in a way where, like, it's some sort of movement like Dadaism or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen. Yeah, in art school, I had to read that Susan Napier book.
Where it's like,
yeah.
And the thing is the former and the latter don't see eye to eye in general, but the latter sees the former as
a threat,
not having standards and just generally a bunch of nasty things that are insulting their either personality or even just intelligence or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of comical when you see this silly shit coming out of anime of all things. It's like you do realize that outside of like a handful of authors in the anime verse, that this sort of behavior and way of thinking is not normal at all.
No.
I mean, yeah, you got your pretentious people just like in anything, but the average creator never comes across that way. I mean, even of stuff that's sort of more highbrow or more, or even pugilistic, like say Berserk. You know, he's a Miura was not only an Idolmaster fan but also fan of lollies and all kinds of other shit.
Oh, that's another thing. I want to touch on that real quick, and then I'll end it. During this weird notion, especially my time when I used to be on Toy Box DX, where it was like an enigma to them that someone could be both into mecha and anime girls. This notion, and you know, I even tried to like or post like figure links to Japanese toy sites that would have like both.
I'm assuming that's because they got into it through the sci-fi or anime angle.
Yeah, the sci-fi and toy angle.
Which means that they don't see it the same way as you did.
Yeah, exactly. Because they were before me, and their introduction was strictly through the sci-fi and sometimes not even through anime itself, but the toys these things would be based on. So and for them,
it's like, just do any of these AARP fuckers now still play football?
I have no idea where they all disappeared to. I really,
I'm sure they're hanging out on some social justice forum these days.
If they're on any toy forums, it's probably Facebook. That's the last I heard.
If they're still into toys at all.
Yeah. Who knows?
I love the fact that a forum full of 40-something-year-old people that critique and play with toys or whining about other adults watching anime.
Or
There's
collecting
just something fun.
There's
There's just something funny about that.
Or like liking cute girls and mecha. It's like,
which is hilarious because what was on Toonami at the same time? That it was like that. It was also Robotech.
What was in Macross?
And exactly. It
What
was like
in Gunbuster?
It's but it's not. It's kind of not even that. It's like, okay, Robotech, but Toonami back in the day had the insight to know that the kinds of people who like Gundam Wing, Robotech, and whatnot also might like Tenchi Muyo. Also might like Tenchi Universe. Also might like Tenchi in Tokyo. So
as far as I know, they did well enough for them to show all of it.
I'm not saying that they have any special insight or they're psychic or whatnot, but what I am saying is that seems to be a pattern, and it's in where there's a clear pattern. It's not that it's missed; it's that it's ignored.
Or in the case of these people that run these places like Toonami, they exploit it.
Hey,
I'm not saying that in a negative way.
Go for it. I love old school Toonami for doing that.
For example, a perfect example of exploitation, in my opinion, that's in a positive way, is that there's this little company out there called Starburst, right? They're a brand called Starburst, rather. And at some point they realized, hey, a lot of people like the reds out of these things. Like the cherries, the strawberry, the watermelon and stuff. Maybe we should have an offshoot that basically just collects all of those. And here we are years later, and they're still doing that now. And clearly that was exploiting a flavor preference that I guess maybe they got through some kind of polling system or I don't know. Like it almost seems like some sort of something they kind of cooked up out of a focus group or something.
Well, all I know is that while I'm not gonna say that the Toonami people had some kind of special insight, they seem to have known what they were doing. Because they played Sailor Moon and Tenchi Muyo and whatnot at the same time that they were playing the giant robot anime. So I don't know. The Toy Box DX guys, I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but that said,
then again, weren't these the same people that flipped out about the new? Weren't these the same people that sort of flipped out about gun laws or some shit on there?
Oh yeah, well that was the one guy saying about the Sandy Hook, and then going about advanced capitalism.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like because shootings only happen in capitalist countries.
So I don't know that they know what they're talking about when
they don't.
When they say stuff like that, especially with regards to anime.
I don't think they know anything about A, capitalism, and B, guns.
Yeah.
But that's the show. The email address is ntrradio@gmail.com. The website is ntrradio.net. Check out VZ stuff at vzmk2moemekagatai.wordpress.com, as well as thebigbookofIdols.com, which is his book, The Big Book of Idols.
Speaking of books.
Speaking of books, I am coming out with a book. It's called Otaku Entrepreneur. You can find that out at otakuentrepreneur.com/book. Otaku Entrepreneur being my otaku business and finance blog. You can find that at otakuentrepreneur.com. I also write iyashike.moe, which is a lifestyle and self-development oriented blog. That's iyashike.moe. Check out Bakugaijin Show, Otaku Midnight, Asobi FM, and the Geeky Panda stuff at thegeekypanda.net. I sell half-naked anime girl figures at shinikiba.moe.
See, he's not afraid to sell them.
I made a lot of money. I am Tom Force Anubis.
Hey, odds.
And VZ Mark II.
And even though we get sent back to the past to trade tapes every time we say this, is NTR